No, doesn't look good.
Okay, I think we're in business.
Good evening and welcome to the Cultural Affairs Commission meeting of September 16th, 2025. I call this meeting to order. Could we please start with roll call?
This never works. Yeah. No. Okay.
So I think I just learned why that doesn't work. I'm just going to take a quick second to see if I can repair this so that you know what to do in the future.
Okay. Commissioner Gupta.
Present.
Commissioner Fleischer.
Present.
Vice Chair Mascali.
Present.
Chair O'Carroll.
Present.
We've already been informed that Commissioner De Loretto will not be attending the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the regular session. Could everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First up, are there any public comments for items not on the agenda?
No, there are not.
Okay. Receipt of correspondence.
I emailed you one public comment that was sent by email, but other than that, no.
Okay. And thank you, Marla Cuset. We appreciate your comments. Marla is a former Cultural Affairs Commissioner and really appreciate the ongoing engagement and care for the city and cultural affairs. Thank you. Moving on to consent calendar items, we have C1, which is the approval of minutes of the special meeting of August 19th, 2025. Do I have any changes or amendments to the minutes?
We've already made one small typo. I don't know if you want to, that was pointed out by Commissioner Fleischer.
Okay.
A name, I'm just fixing a duplicate name.
Okay. Any other changes or amendments? Okay. And you guys are all set? Okay. So, could we please have a motion to approve the minutes? And a second?
I made the motion.
Just, yes. Okay, moved by Vice Chair Mascali, and so far, no one's seconded.
I did.
Huh. Okay, I'll just add it in manually. Okay. Commissioner Gupta, do you see an option to vote? Not on the big screen, on the little screen. Okay, so the motion to approve as amended by Vice Chair Mascali, seconded by Chair O'Carroll. And Commissioner Gupta, how do you vote? Okay, and then Commissioner Fleischer already voted yay. Vice Chair Mascali and Chair O'Carroll. So the motion passes with 4 ayes.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to action items. A1, which is CAC Action Item 1, discussion of the proposed donation and installation of the historic MGM sign, and 2, provide recommendations to staff for City Council as appropriate. Do we have a staff report?
We do. We're just going to pull up the presentation here.
I'm going to look at it during.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, we are introducing the proposed donation and installation of the historic MGM sign. This opportunity has been made possible through the efforts of Maggie Adams, Senior Manager of MGM's Digital Archives, who is with us tonight, who facilitated the studio's offer of the sign to the city. I would also like to acknowledge our city historian, Hope Parrish, who brought this matter to Cultural Affairs, has been an advocate for its review. I will also note that Hope has provided many of the historic slides, including my favorite, which is up in front of you now, right before the famous roar of the MGM lion. The MGM sign is among the most recognizable images in motion picture history, featuring Leo the lion and the motto Ars Gratia Artis, meaning art for art's sake. Here you see another series of lions that are very familiar to Culver City residents in and around. It was first installed in the late 1920s and relocated in 1930 to Stage 6, where it remained for more than 60 years. In 1987, the sign was restored and relit at what is now 1 Culver in a public event attended by Gene Kelly and Mayor Dick Brundo. It was removed in 1992 and has been stored since and was previously declared a cultural landmark by City Council. The sign measures approximately 14 feet tall, 32 feet wide, and weighs nearly 3,000 pounds approximately. It is a double-sided work with each side mirroring the other. At this time, it is assumed that the sign was painted by MGM's in-house set designers. No specific artist attribution has been identified, though staff will continue to research whether individual contributors can be named. These are a couple more shots of various installations of the sign. A preliminary conservation assessment conducted this summer found that the sign to be in fair to good condition. The review noted paint loss, fading, and corrosion on the steel. Prior to reinstallation, stabilization and surface treatments would be required. Following installation, the sign would require a long-term maintenance plan to ensure its preservation. Staff from Cultural Affairs and the Parks, Recreation, Community Services Department reviewed multiple possible sites, both within and near Vets Memorial Park. Due to the sign's size, most locations were determined not to be feasible. The Overland Avenue frontage of the Senior Center was identified as the most appropriate site based on scale, visibility, and the ability to engage the public. And this is just to give you a little scale with Sam and I when we visited the storage site earlier. These renderings illustrate the preliminary concept for the site. The sign placed against a new perimeter wall, approximately 6 to 8 feet tall, framing with native landscaping, including a shade tree, a paved plaza space with an interpretive plaque providing historical context. This layout provides for visibility from Overland Boulevard while also creating a defined area for gathering and interpretation. I will note that at this time, the rendering only shows one side of the sign, and if you are looking for further sort of site placement here, this is facing what is all that electrical stuff at the Sony lot. In front, but not at the very corner side of Culver and Overland. Here's another shot. You can see where the actual entrance is. So this timed in with the Parks Plan, which was currently working on landscaping this area. So when we were going around and thinking about potential locations, it was fortuitous that they were already redoing the entire frontage there. So we have been in touch with the landscape architect for the city who provided us these renderings, and we thank Ryan for that work. The relocation of a work of this scale requires specialized expertise. OVO Art Transplant has provided a preliminary estimate of about $115,000, which includes project planning and coordination, on-site preparation, rigging, trucking, pilot car support, and crane rental, and a final installation with welding, permits, and traffic control. Additional bids would be sought if the project is directed to proceed. And this is just another of the landscaping shot from above. And if you're looking at the bottom, the senior center building is at the bottom of that, and Overland Avenue is on the top above where the palm trees are pictured there. In addition to installation costs, conservation measures would be necessary. These include structure and stabilization of the steel frame, surface treatment for paint loss and corrosion, and the establishment of a maintenance cycle to preserve the sign for the long term. These costs are not fully reflected in the OVO estimate, but are essential to responsible stewardship of the sign. Additional project costs that would contribute to the total cost include fabrication and installation of historic plaque and interpretive signage, a rollout of or unveiling event with staging, lighting, communications, and permitting, lighting of the sign itself, and a 10% contingency allocation to address unforeseen needs during the project. The next step in the process would be to present the project to the senior center community, which is happening in October, as well as to present again at the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission meeting in October. Those are both already on the calendar. If there is sufficient support, feedback from those groups, together with recommendations from this commission, would move forward as a combined recommendation to City Council. Should the council elect to accept the donation, the sign would be added to the city's permanent collection through the Art in Public Places program. Costs for transportation, installation, conservation, and maintenance would be drawn from the Cultural Trust, subject to council approval for use of those funds. At this point, I would like to invite City Historian Hope Parrish, if there's anything additional you want to add about the history or anything you want to add about the project in general.
Hi, Commissioner and our commission. I don't know that there's a lot that I can add, except that having this sign for me has been one of the most important things, and I've been trying to figure out where it went since 1990. No, actually, it left here in 91. It went to Santa Monica up on top of a building for another certain amount of years, and then it went to Century City, and then it went to a storage. And I've been trying to find out where it's been. And then when Amazon bought the lot, I had gone to Marie Lloyd 4 years ago and said, we need to bring the lion home. This is where Leo was born, 1924. This is where he should come home to, since you're back in town having Amazon under your banner. It kind of just didn't do much. And then all of a sudden, Maggie walks into our lives, and through the way of the Neon Museum. There's not a lot that I can say except that in 1987, our mayor, Dick Brundo, our council members, our Historical Society, our Cultural Affairs Foundation, all of them found the significance of this, and they marked it as a significant feature of this city of historic value. So I would hope that maybe a lot of that consideration would be taking place, and Sally seems to have done a wonderful work with Ted Stevens at Parks and Recreation to try to figure out where we might be able to bring this back. And for me, as a studio worker for 3 generations, my family, and I worked at MGM, and there's a lot of people in this city that worked at MGM, and it is one of the biggest parts of our history of Culver City. And I just would like to see Leo come home, and I think that if we can manage to make this work out, I think that there will be a lot of opportunity for us to have a piece of history that other people in the world can share when they come into Culver City. It's a nice gateway to that part of Culver City coming from Venice, and I think that it would be a wonderful addition. I don't know if there's anything else I have to say, except It's in your hands.
Thanks, Hope. And I'm available for questions on any of this.
Okay, thank you for the staff report. Thank you, Hope. Welcome, Maggie, and welcome, Judith. Commissioner Gupta, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I had one question. Love the project. Just wondering, do we have a project timeline or kind of an estimate of how long this will take, and will it happen before the Olympics? That's one of my questions.
I would hope having it installed before the Olympics would be an attainable goal. There is sizable work to be done, as you've probably anticipated. Besides the 2 October sessions, both getting senior feedback and getting the feedback of the Parks Commission themselves, we have to determine, are we keeping one side or are we keeping both sides and mounting it against the wall? And we would have to obviously work on a donation agreement. And then, of course, the preliminary estimate from the art handler, I would have to get 3 estimates in order to have for our procurement, which would take some time to get art handlers out there and give us estimates. In addition, whichever one's selected, we would have to, really get into what it would actually take to move. Already from being in that warehouse, there's only one door that sign can go through, and it would have to be off hours. So there's a lot of coordination that would need to happen for it to move and how it would be installed and sort of the process with the installation. But I think, if it goes before City Council, and we would also obviously have to go through the process as a commission of adding this to the permanent collection, and that would be in collaboration with the Public Arts Subcommittee and then into the commission to vote it into the collection. So there's many steps that would be a part of this, months away, but there is a path. And I would think that there would be a path to have it up before the Olympics.
Vice Chair Muscali.
Thanks for the presentation. We obviously spoke about this in the subcommittee for a bit. So I have a little bit of knowledge about this from the meeting, and thank you, Hope, for joining us and further enlightening us. I'm definitely a fan. I think that the timing is perfect because it adds a moment of necessary branding in the city that people can potentially visit, take pictures in front of, especially with ideally the World Cup. I know that's wishful thinking on a local government timeline, but definitely by the Olympics. I'm a fan personally, just putting my architecture hat on for a second. I'm just curious, what exactly is the nature of that barrier around the patio for the senior center? Who's going to be responsible for designing and executing that, and kind of figuring out the marriage between that border, the perimeter, how it potentially flies behind the signs in between? I do definitely think that we should try our best to maintain the sign in its current form to the best of our ability. And I like the idea in our subcommittee of having some kind of perimeter fly in between and have a version of the sign lit up on the inside for the seniors to enjoy that's kind of incorporated into their patio on the interior side, and then also have a bright, elevated, well-lit version of it for the public on the other side, potentially lifted off the ground, so if there's water, wetness, anything, it should have a nice solid stone foundation with integrated lighting, and the plaque can be a part of it as well. And I know this rendering from city staff is very preliminary, but I just think that maybe where the sign is located, I guess this depends on what level of privacy the senior citizens want. I'm envisioning that I think a better solution, or maybe a more advanced solution, would be that whether or not this perimeter is totally solid and opaque on certain areas, when it reaches the sign, the armature in between it, that's between the two sides of the sign, could potentially have a little bit more transparency, or be made of like metal slots. Maybe it dips down, creates, like, people are not going to be able to jump past the sign and get inside the senior patio. So maybe in that area, in order to not have this awkward situation where there's like a halfway solid wall going through it in an awkward way, like you could transition to some kind of like nice metal finish or like a modern division that kind of works well with the character and the aesthetic of the sign. That's maybe like slots of metal, some kind of louver system, something nice, clean, elegant, modern, that then transitions into something a little bit more solid on the edges, if that's what's required in the design. That would be my only comment. I also think just compositionally and also from a maintenance perspective, putting it under a tree is not necessarily a good idea. Things could drop on it, birds like to live there, and unfortunately, excrement all over the sign and stuff. So I think we should try to keep natural things that are going to mess with it away, and potentially just compositionally, it might look a little bit better if the trees are flanking it or flagging it on both sides, so you have kind of like this positive-negative relationship, not this awkward thing where you have a stick lined up behind the lion's head. So that would just be, but I know I might be getting ahead of myself. This is all speculative and very conceptual, but I just had to, like, for the record, mention some of my design suggestions. But yes, philosophically and conceptually, I'm totally on board, and I think the timing is perfect for where we're trying to head as a city to like represent ourselves better.
I just want to make a quick note that the rendering only includes one side of the sign. And I think, if I recall correctly, the tree was an intent to shade the paint to avoid further wear to the paint, but those comments are heard and will be executed as well.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mascali. Commissioner Fleischer?
Yeah, obviously the lion has such great history here, and initially I thought the placement on the cultural corridor kind of completes that corridor, and I liked the idea, but I actually went and visited the senior center area last night. I live very close by, and I see some issues, and I want to thank Vice Chair Mascali for putting on his architecture hat, because I don't know all these things, and I can only do it based on my own experiences. So I have some issues with it, like the sidewalk is about 8 feet, and then you're planning to put the sign right there. There's no parking there. That is a right-hand turn lane, and I don't quite understand the selfie platform. I mean, you could see the picture that you took of Sam and Sally there. You were standing back quite a bit, quite far. You'd be, halfway in the middle of Overland Boulevard. So that's not going to work as a selfie stand, and I'm very concerned about safety. I'm also concerned about the sign being on ground level because it's a climbing hazard. So if you have a wall, and then again, I'm going to refer to the architect here, could you put the sign up 6 feet on the wall on some kind of shelf so that at least 6 feet up, maybe it wouldn't be a climbing hazard?
Like a monument, sort of, like a little
Yes,
bit elevated.
and then that would be more visible, and maybe then with a, wide-angle lens, I'm not a photographer either, that you could take a selfie and then it would be up behind you. That's all to say that as much as I love this, I think this is premature, and it's a premature discussion. I'm glad to hear that it went to the Public Art Subcommittee. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Because for me, when I saw this, I thought, oh, historic preservation. We finally have something for historic preservation. And then I learned yesterday that I understand that the tree surrounds are now part of cultural affairs, and I thought, oh, another thing that should be part of historic preservation. But we don't have that subcommittee anymore. And I thought, if we all up here had known that these two things were coming on board, that we might have chosen to keep that. So all of these ideas that you have, which are the right ideas because they're coming from an architect, could have been flushed out before bringing it to the full commission. So I would like to actually ask Chair O'Carroll, and I don't know quite the procedure, but I'd like to ask you to agendize forming a historic preservation subcommittee at the next meeting, and we can continue to have this discussion, but I don't think we're ready to make any decisions on this based on what Commissioner Mascali's experts comments were and my completely, just pedestrian comments were. I just don't think we're ready to go there, even though I think we all support this project. So I'd like to talk about that to see how you feel about this. And at the same time, if we are able to form this subcommittee, the tree surrounds, which I understand are coming to us in November, could also be discussed within a historic preservation context and have our expert here help to formulate the right decisions for the city. So this has nothing to do with the history. I appreciate all of Hope's work on this, but it's our job up here to make sure we give the right recommendation to the city council, and I don't feel comfortable doing that until our expert has really given it a thorough once-over. And then just as a side note, that the conservation assessment that was in there, I understand from reading it that it was done at a distance, and that kind of irked me because I was thinking, well, if you're going to buy a vintage car, you'd want to get up nice and close and check it out, and that wasn't done. So I understand that there are going to be more assessments before this finally goes through, but I'd like to see this happen earlier so that when it finally comes to us, all of these issues have been vetted. So I'll stop there and let you continue the discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleischer. I'm all for the sign. I'm thrilled it's coming back to Culver City. I am worried about the location because, as Commissioner Fleischer said, there's no parking there. And you do want the selfies. It's a great promotion of Culver City. And I know it's really big, but it would be great if it could be somewhere else where there's more pedestrian traffic, such as downtown. Again, I know this has been explored, but it would be great to really feature it in a place where people really could take advantage of it as a selfie that, for so many people, was synonymous with Culver City. Getting back to what Commissioner Fleischer said, I'm just going to read from the Culver City government website. In 2001, the city's historic preservation program was incorporated under the purview of the newly established Cultural Affairs Commission. To me, this project is clearly historic preservation. So that's one project. On top of that, I attended the Tree Surrounds event this past Sunday because I was invited by the man spearheading that event, and that's Jeff Merkel. I have to say I was shocked to then hear from the manager that Tree Surrounds has been transferred from Public Works to Cultural Affairs and will be up as an item in our November meeting when none of us were notified. None of us were notified about that very significant move. We were not notified about the September 14th event, and furthermore, we weren't invited to the September 14th event. And when I asked you about this, Sally, you said, but I did invite, and it was done in every commission. Can I finish, please? So I did review the past two minutes, and there's no reference to the Tree Surrounds or the event. And I think it was very significant that the commissioner should have known about it and should have been invited. There's a lot of people committing their time and effort to the Tree Surrounds. And, you know, this city talks a lot about inclusivity. Thank goodness. And yet, I feel like the Cultural Affairs Commission has been step by step excluded from very important matters, including not having a historic preservation subcommittee when, in fact, just last month, we did a reassignment and assignment of the of the subcommittees, and yet there was no mention that maybe we should have a historic preservation subcommittee because we have MGM and we have the Tree Surrounds. We have further been excluded systematically from the last three events in close succession. This is the Sonia Romero unveiling at the Farragut Connector. The press release about it had absolutely no mention of the Cultural Affairs Commission, even though it's under the Cultural Affairs Commission purview. Right after that, we had the spectacular Music in the Chambers concert that Commissioner Fleischer poured herself into, again, under the purview of the Cultural Affairs Commission, and yet the initial press release had no mention of the Cultural Affairs Commission. And then Commissioner Fleischer called you out on that, and then it was finally included. Thirdly, I was absolutely shocked to attend this event last Sunday and discover that it's a Cultural Affairs Commission matter, and yet we've been completely kept in the dark. And I will say, the exclusion of the Cultural Affairs Commission is unacceptable on Cultural Affairs Commission matters. We cannot be kept in the dark. We cannot do our work plan. We've been excluded both internally and externally. That has to stop, and it needs to change. Thank you. And yes, I agree that we should do an agenda item for next meeting to put back the Historic Preservation Subcommittee.
Do we need to make a motion on that now to agendize?
3 night has is fine.
Okay, I'm nodding.
Nodding.
Okay.
Would it be okay if I replied to a few of the concerns?
Certainly.
Okay. Clearly, my intention was not to have you not part of this discussion. In fact, it did go in front of the Public Arts Subcommittee. So I did have a process, and if it was not mentioned in the notes, that's on me. I have had it as the list of the things that we're doing when I have my staff comments of save the dates. The last 2 meetings, my recollection was that that was one of the dates for the tree surrounds in particular. And if I'm mistaken in that, I will review the recording, and I apologize. But I had thought that was, it also went out citywide to 19,000 people when the flyer was eventually created. We were moving a lot of parts. I'll let you, I just want to go point to these. We were moving a lot of parts to get the Parks project facility to give us that space. So I apologize that you did not know in advance, but it was definitely blasted out to the public and to the wider that we were having a community. The city council meeting where it was remanded to the Cultural Affairs Commission was following our Olympics conversation with Jeff Merkel when he presented the tree surrounds. He then went to the city council meeting expressing that he wanted to save the tree surrounds, and it was remanded for feedback. So what I'm doing is collecting feedback to give you, and I've also been collecting what might be either a possibility to have those tree surrounds or to have this sign enter in as an art piece or as a historic piece. To address the Historic Preservation Subcommittee, I fully intended to add the committee back in next month. We were just getting our finances in order to go in contract with the historic preservation firm we want to use, who will do the consulting over the historic code and will advise us on historic preservation. So the reason I did not do it a couple of months ago is because we wanted to make sure we had them under contract so that they would be the professional consult on historic preservation work. We are just about at the point in our budget cycle where we can release that money, and it was also not a given that the city council was going to approve that money. We've been declined in the past. In retrospect, these 2 items would have required historic preservation, and I should have had them. But my thinking was actually to start so that we had a professional available before we created that subcommittee. So just to give you some background there. In terms of Sonia Romero, I will consult with the commission again about press releases or about speaking at events, but it was definitely mentioned and emailed out to the commission that that event was happening with a full invite. And obviously, most of this stuff was also heavily discussed in the Public Arts Subcommittee, which is a public standing meeting. I think I've covered most of what you were talking about, but I hear you, and I have zero intent to keep you out of any processes or communications. As far as music in the chambers, I don't believe there was a press release that went out, but it did go out to social media, but was corrected within about 15 minutes by adding the commission in, and that was something that we don't have control over that, but was edited almost immediately, even before I had seen the concern.
Okay, the Sonia Romero, what I'm referring to is the social media posts following the event. There is no reference to the Cultural Affairs Commission.
We will certainly rectify that in the future. Again, we didn't create the communication, but I will make sure that that...
So you didn't write it? Who writes
No,
it?
it's done by our communications manager for the city. So he wrote it, and he did a summary. He did a video with Sonia, and I didn't catch that it hadn't been listed there, but I will certainly talk to him about making sure that our communications... we don't always write the communications, and often he's at 5, 6 events. That was also Fiesta La Bayona weekend, so it's something that's noted, and I will make sure that we address.
Okay, so it's very curious that the Cultural Affairs Commission was excluded 3 in a row. I'm talking about Sonia Romero, I'm talking about Music in the Chambers, and then you referred to the blast, the Gov delivery, about the tree surrounds. Cultural Affairs is not mentioned at all. It says the city of Culver City invites. So there's absolutely no reference to Cultural Affairs. We should have all been there if we had the time, and the fact that it was transferred from Public Works to Cultural Affairs is very significant. It was a great opportunity to see Jeff Merkel's wonderful presentation, and it is curious that it was 3 in a row that there was exclusion.
Just to clarify, it wasn't remanded to us yet. What was remanded to us is to present to you feedback for your recommendation, which is what is happening now. We're gathering feedback so that when I present it to you in November, we've got all of the information about what the public process has been. And I've been working very closely with Jeff about making sure that we have public engagement moments that mirror that district. So that's why Art Walk and Roll and that Parks project were set up. Again, it was not my intention to exclude you from that, and my recollection was that it came up when I was doing my dates for the last 2 meetings of the things. The very busy season is usually what I would start, and I would start listing off things that were happening. But obviously, I could have done a better job of highlighting this one and making sure you understood what exactly that public process was. We've been juggling a lot, and I hear your concerns.
Commissioner Fleischer?
Sorry about that, didn't press hard enough. You didn't mention the tree surrounds at the August meeting, and this is now the second time, actually, that you've brought up the fact that the public either isn't invited or is invited. So you said that there was a blast going out to 19,000 people to the public. We're not the public. We're the Cultural Affairs Commission. This happened in August when Vice Chair Mascali and Chair O'Carroll were interested in that event that, I'm sorry, I don't know the name, I just know it was at the Shea Hotel, and you had said that it wasn't open to the public. We are not the public, we are the Cultural Affairs Commission. So I would like you to think of us as the Cultural Affairs Commission rather than the public, and that we should be acknowledged as such in communications, both internal and external.
Noted. In terms of the Shea Hotel event, I was asked to speak by the mayor, and I did go back and ask for permission to have commissioners attend, and was told that no commissions or committees, and that there was a lot of commissions and committees that could have been invited based on the subject matter, and that was a tight room because of capacity. So I did ask that after the fact when it was brought up.
You did, and thank you for that, but I think you're missing Commissioner Fleischer's point, and that is you keep referring to us as the public, and we are not the public.
No, I hear you on that, and what I meant by public communication, just to let you know, is that meaning that it went out to the blast. I am acknowledging that I did not send you a separate email, so that is acknowledged.
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that moving forward, if there's anywhere that you think it's important for us to be, where there's official information that concerns the commission, I think it's proper protocol to formally invite the commission and let them know, hey, there's an important event happening where people are going to be giving feedback about the tree surrounds. Here's the date, here's the time, ideally, here's an invitation, a Google Calendar, it's technology. We have technology these days. Here's an invitation formally. And whether you can come or not, it could be made, optional, but it would be nice for there to be a little bit of, effort into helping us, manage our time to be at important events where it makes sense for us to be there. I've also had situations, for example, the tree surround. I was going to be there. I had to be out of town for work this weekend, but Jeff reached out to me personally and told me about it. So I shouldn't have to rely on Jeff, an actual member of the public, to tell me, a commissioner, about an important meeting where we're giving feedback about something that's coming into the purview of public art. So I agree with some of the concerns, and I've had similar issues, but just wanted to add that. One thing that I wanted to add, since we're actually talking mostly about the lion right now, is that discussions surrounding the character of the perimeter and research about potential options for where this thing can be and concerning its size and all that were made in public arts, but we were told that a lot of different options were explored and this was the best one. So I'm not necessarily sure that's the best way to move forward with these kinds of things. If options were explored, we'd like to see those options. I'd like to see 3, 4, 5 different versions of this rendering, trying it out in different parts of the city. Like, we need to know that options actually have been exhausted and we have evidence of those options being exhausted. And, who went around and looked around the city to see where a 40-foot long sign can fit? We would like to know who the experts were who decided that this is the best place for it, And I voiced that in our public arts subcommittee, and I was under the impression that for now this is a preliminary approval and nothing that we are confirming right now is going to be set in stone. Like, the rendering is just a circle with a bar underneath it. Obviously, it's conceptual. So I think the processes around the decisions that are made on execution, it would be nice for them to be a little bit more exhaustive and transparent once it gets to this level in the commission. That's just something that I wanted to add.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mascali. So what do we need to do to make a motion to agendize adding back the Historic Preservation Subcommittee for next meeting?
You've already done 3 nodding heads, and it's been noted for the record.
Okay. Moving on.
Just to let you know about location citing, we did have several interdepartmental conversations about possible locations, including downtown, and it is an enormous sign. So most of those conversations led to, from the city manager's office to talking to Econ Dev about possible siting locations that would be more in downtown area. Most of them led to the best open space was in and around Vets Park, which was carefully walked with the Parks Department. And we talked about a number of signs. I'm happy to write that up in a summary about the various siting. But at the end of the day, there were problematic components of each of those siting. And when the opportunity of the revamp in front of the senior center presented itself, that's where there was a possible location for this. So as far as I know, this was right now the only siting location that seemed to be feasible. But hearing your feedback, which is what your job is today, is to give us feedback, I will certainly note that feedback, and that will be part of considerations if this were to move forward, and whatever your feedback is what we're here for today.
I just want to add one thing. We're all volunteers up here. We volunteer a lot of time and our expertise. Moving forward, I do not want to waste time verifying something I'm told that is untrue. In this case, it was when I asked you at the Tree Surrounds meeting, why were the commissioners not invited? And you said, but I did invite them at every meeting. I then have to review the minutes. I do not want to spend my time like that. I want to spend my time enriching our community with the arts and using my expertise for that.
May I say something? I actually did attend the meeting on Sunday. Jeff did reach out to me. Sally, you also reached out to me, and I confirmed I would be attending. I'm wondering, in my mind, this was a meeting meant really for the community at the time, but perhaps I'm mistaken. I thought it was going to be the first of many. So I went representing myself as someone who lives in the community. So that's, to me, I was wearing my community hat. Of course, I also always wear my Cultural Affairs Commissioner hat, but to me, this was the first of many. I was under the impression, just from having conversations with Jeff, and I think Sally and Jeff want to include us all moving forward, but this was one of many meetings that was meant to solicit feedback. That was my impression. I could, I'm just telling you, that was my impression.
So it's interesting that only one commissioner is invited and the other 3 aren't. We were invited through Jeff Moracle, but if one commissioner is being invited, all commissioners...
No, that's not what I said. I communicated to Sally and I said, I am going to this.
Oh, I thought you said Sally invited you.
No.
Or
Sorry,
talked to you
that's
about
what
it.
Jeff
Okay.
invited me. because I live in the community of
No,
the
he
Arts
he
District.
invited both of us to, and we do not live in the community.
Right,
It-
but
It was
he-
under the Cultural Affairs purview, and it's up for a meeting in
Yes,
November.
yes, I also wanted to add, he also texted me and said he was reaching out to all of us. So I think it was me as a community member, but he was also reaching out to everyone. But
Right, and as Vice Chair Mascali said, we are not the public. We should have heard about it through the Cultural Affairs Manager.
right, I think, though, my point is, I thought it was meant to be more of a community meeting. So again, I feel like the lines are a little blurred as to whether or not was it a community meeting or was it a meeting meant for cultural affairs as well.
Well, the meeting was run by Sally, so I would say it was a Cultural Affairs meeting.
Okay, understood. I would like to also just make one point about the lion. I brought this up in the public arts meeting that we had. My concern also was around pedestrian safety as well. I did feel like folks could enjoy it who were in Vets Park. They could safely walk over. I did walk and drive past there just to make sure, that was feasible. But I did express a little bit of concern about just selfie safety, as you may say, as well as pedestrian safety. So I assumed that was going to be looked at again, too. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to action item A2, which is the discussion of potential partnership and requested funding for the Attune LA temporary outdoor sound and frequency exhibition by Now Art. 2, provide comments as appropriate. And 3, provide recommendation to staff. Is there any, there's a presentation, right?
Just a couple slides.
Okay.
Now Art first introduced this project to the commission at its July meeting, giving an initial presentation on the concept. Since then, they have expanded their materials and now include a dedicated project website, which is linked to the staff report. Attune LA is a temporary multi-site sound and light exhibition designed to activate approximately 20 to 30 locations simultaneously across Los Angeles County. The tentative event date is Saturday, November 8th from 6 to 9 p.m. The experience would be free and open to the public, featuring participating artists such as Miguel Atwood Ferguson, with additional artists under consideration. Now Art has reported that Long Beach and the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs are either supporting or considering participation. Staff has not independently confirmed these partnerships. In addition, Sam Lee has reached out to West Hollywood, which is reviewing the proposal but has not yet made a decision. And as of last month, when Sam Lee and I were with the public art coordinator in Pasadena, we had learned that they had not been approached for the project. Now Art has asked Culver City to host a site and contribute between $10,000 and $15,000. This aligns with the Cultural Trust Fund allocation for temporary art displays, though the project was not included in the original work plan. The Public Arts Subcommittee identified several potential sites, with Veterans Memorial Park and the Venda Museum highlighted as especially visible and accessible. Other sites discussed included West Los Angeles College and Baldwin Hills Overlook. Subcommittee members emphasized the need to weigh whether the activation should be a stumble-upon experience versus a destination event, balancing accessibility, ambience, and logistics. The proposal raises broader policy considerations for the city. Commissioners may wish to discuss establishing clear criteria and intake processes for reviewing external proposals, considering whether Culver City should develop a temporary art activation program to support future projects of this type, exploring whether this particular project might serve as a pilot to help determine if a more standardized program should be pursued in the future. A $10,000 contribution would be funded from the Cultural Trust temporary art allocation, as mentioned, and would not require City Council approval. If approved, staff would prepare an agreement in which Now Art assumes full responsibility for production, permitting, and liability insurance. Culver City's role would be limited to recognition as a supporting partner, site coordination, and local promotion. No general fund impact is anticipated. We are asking the Commission to discuss the proposal, recommend whether to proceed with a $10,000 contribution in partnership, or recommend that the city decline the request and/or provide guidance on how to evaluate similar temporary art activations, including whether to explore a more formal program framework. Thank you. Just for the other slides, this was their key slide. They mentioned this partnership in their slide deck from last time. I think these budget slides got cut off, but I'm happy to pull them up for you from their proposal if you'd like.
Thank you. Vice Chair Mascali, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, again, I guess I'm the busy guy here, but we reviewed this in our subcommittee, and the takeaway that I had from it was that this presentation in its current form is a little half-baked. You can't just show a picture of like a lit-up triangle and be like, give us $10,000. I think you need to kind of come with a little bit more meat on the bone. So I think what we can get out of this, in my opinion, and that was kind of the consensus in our subcommittee, is that we need to create some kind of framework or armature or system to be able to intake these types of projects, and that is kind of experiential, temporary projects of this nature, because now art is just one of hundreds of these agencies that kind of do this for a living. You know, I can come up with a list of 15 of them that are much more prestigious and working on a higher caliber than these people right now that do installations like this in Coachella and South by Southwest and Art Basel and Burning Man and XYZ. So these are cool, they're fun. I think it'd be a great addition to the repertoire of experiences that the city kind of funds and puts their stamp of approval on. But I'm personally not ready to say, off with the horses on this. I think, what we can get out of this is if there's the funding, if there's the armature, if there's the structure, if there's the intake process formalized for this kind of thing, we start a pilot program. Once a year, we put it out there. Now art can apply and compete against everybody else on the same playing field. We'll make a public announcement that we're trying to do one event a year of this caliber, maybe two if we're really being really ambitious, and figure out a time frame for when this happens once a year, what the funding structure is, put out a public, request for XYZ, do it the formal way, and figure out a way for us to encourage these types of things. And I think it's a great thing because we're going to need the infrastructure to do these types of temporary, experiential, fun types of events that involve lighting and sound and music and being in a 360 environment, XYZ. It's going to be important for the World Cup, it's going to be important for the Olympics, it's going to be important for us to stay agile because these are the types of events and installations and things that are happening in our cities and environments. So that's kind of like my top level comment is I would say that's a good focused goal to come out of this.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mascali. Commissioner Gupta.
Thank you. Yes, so I also reviewed this in the Public Arts Committee. I think one of the curious things I question is when we discussed it about, was it a month ago or so, we were curious about which cities had said yes, which cities had said no, which cities had been approached. And so I'm wondering if, I believe you said no other municipalities have.
They released a statement saying that the Department of Cultural Affairs for the city is a supporter. I don't know to what end that means. That's not clarified, and that Long Beach has come on. But Long Beach is not coming on as a city, but it has its own nonprofit arm. So that would be the person that's the entity that's supporting this project from the Long Beach side. We did reach out to Pasadena and West Hollywood,
Right.
which were on the original side deck that they were. And again, West Hollywood is doing something similar to this, where they're presenting it to the commission for consideration, and I don't know if they're going to approve it either. And Pasadena told us they had not been approached for the project.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think for the success of this particular project, you have to have, all of the municipalities in agreement. So that to me is a little bit concerning that they haven't made that progress. That gives me pause to question that. And I agree with creating a proper infrastructure to vet these types of projects. I actually really think that the project itself is very unique, and I'm sure there are many of them out there. We know that. But I think that it does offer something very interesting and a lot of joy right now in a time that's quite difficult for many. So I think just kind of putting my creative hat on, I liked the concept, even with the 3D light. I kind of tried to envision what it may come to be. However, I feel like at this point, they haven't really moved the ball forward with other cities, which is disappointing. So I think it's a pause for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Fleischer?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Thank you for that insight, really helpful to Vice Chair Miscali. Yeah, I did go on the website, which was new since the last time they came here and presented, and when I clicked on list of participating cities, they all say tentative, and that gave me pause. Also, there's something in there, either in the slide deck or on the website, that talks about being near metro stations. And Vets Park and the Venda are not near the metro station. There is the Ivy Station, but it's not exactly quiet, right? And then there's Sid Cronenthal Park, which is going to have issues the same as Vets, which is that, I mean, I have children. We got permits months ahead of time for birthday parties in the park. The parks are always booked up. So even if they could get a space, I don't think it's going to necessarily be quiet. The Vendée, I'm not quite sure how it would work, but I would imagine you would envision it and see it. But anyway, this is supposed to happen, they say, in November, and they don't have any commitments yet. And so I just don't see it happening, and I don't see us, even though it's not a whole lot of money, I just don't see a good reason for us to approve this when I don't really see all the parts in place. So I agree with you both about this.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's fine to have, sorry to interject, it's fine to have some degree of, leave some things to the imagination, but you're right. If this is actually going to be executed on this timeline, like if this was my project, I'd be freaking out, and I need a team of 15 people to figure it out. So I'm just, kind of, let's be real. There's nothing really of substance here. Like, there's not like, oh, we're going to do this armature, and there's going to be this many lights, and it's going to cost us this much money, and here's the sounds, and it hasn't really been. It's extremely half baked. So, if I think we work backwards from it, an individual I think a really good point that you made is that media park area in front of Ivy. Like, that would be a good place for an activation like this. It necessarily isn't going to be quiet, but, those trees are already lit up. There's a theater right in front of it. It's a place that the city is trying to activate to bring more energy and stuff. So, like, what I'm saying is, if we want to do events like this and be able to receive them, maybe we need to kind of work backwards and figure out, where do we have an area that's close to public transportation? Where there's an area where we're reaching some of the advantages that we want to gain? Like, what are some parts of town that we want to bring energy to? Where do we feel is the best place to host these types of things so that we can build a culture of experiential activations in town? So, like that, if all of that is, set up and put out there, then we can receive, actual formal proposals and designs that kind of let us know this is what we were trying to do in the space that you guys have provided. That's kind of what I think the way that this probably should go.
I agree with that, actually. I think that having a framework that we can then do a request for proposals is excellent, and we should act upon that, and perhaps that's the beauty of this project, that it's going to make us have that, and that's wonderful. And by the way, I was talking about Ivy Station, which is actually not run by Culver City, even though Culver City has events there. That's LA, right? Ivy Substation, that's also part LA, and that's Media Park. But Ivy Station itself, if they were to approach the city, that would be a place where we could perhaps do an activation in the future that would be in conjunction with the city of Los Angeles, since it's both. It's run by not by Culver City. It's run by the city. They do all the programming, but we've had plenty of events there, and people really like the space. It's a wonderful space, actually, and it would be a good place for that activation. But thank you for those comments, and thank you to the Public Arts Subcommittee for coming up with this, what I think is a timely and cogent idea right now to do the to have a framework and to build a framework for this kind of thing, because I agree that having these kind of experiential, especially after the pandemic, right? These experiences are important for everybody's mental health. One more thing I'll add, and also because I'm a musician, there's no music on their website, like, or sound or anything. I've been to sound baths, I know what they're like, but you can't expect everyone to know what they are like. And so even just a sampling of that on the website from these artists that they're supposedly engaging would have been helpful, right? And give us a little bit more confidence in that. So as you said, it's half-baked, it's not a lot of there, and I think we shouldn't, at this point, approve it and go forward with this idea of a framework.
Just to add, I do believe they pushed back the timeline because the reality is there's no way it was going to happen in November. So I think they were looking at it, doing it for the spring when it's warm out and, you can have this type of thing. But that being said, I'd love to kind of just see if we can kind of keep our finger on the pulse and see which cities end up saying yes to this and what types of areas those cities leverage, so, is El Segundo, is it a place near the beach? Is it a public park? Just kind of seeing what other cities are doing, because I do think it's a really interesting project in theory. So if it can be activated with all the cities, that would be remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone's comments. I couldn't agree more. I echo what everyone said. Thank you especially to Vice Chair Mascali and your insightful comments. Several things really struck me. One, there's no letters of intent, which has been mentioned already several times. There's no sound examples, which I actually asked them for last time they were here. However, and of course the timing is tricky, at this point, but I just following up from what Vice Chair Mascali was saying, it would be nice if at a future point, maybe there could be an RFP for something like this, and so that we could get various submissions and look at them all. So I think that wraps it up for our thoughts on this particular project. Is this, do we need a vote for this?
I think your summary of your declining the proposal at this time does not necessitate a vote.
Okay, thank you.
But if we did want to explore the option of a pilot program for creating a system for accepting RFPs for events of this nature once a year,
That would be something that you could ask us to agendize with 3 nodding heads.
Cool, let's do it.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Are there any public comment of items not on the agenda? Okay, we're going to move on to items from staff and members. If we could please start with staff.
Okay, the Performing Arts Grant Program applications for 2026 performances are still open and available on the city website. The maximum grant request amount is $10,000, and matching funds are required. I've been having a lot of conversations with interested potential applicants. The emails and calls are still coming in. The deadline to submit an application is September 26th. And then from the 21 grants that were already awarded for 2025, there have been performances by 14 groups so far. October is going to be another busy month of grant-sponsored events. First is Helix Collective. They're going to perform a music program called LA Stories at the Gloria Kaufman Community Center on October 11th. Then Heidi Duckler Dance will be performing as part of the Art Walk and Roll Festival on October 18th. And then back at the Gloria Kaufman Community Center on October 25th will be Contra Tiempo Dance Theater presenting Roots of Loving Us. Information for all grant events is posted on the city website, in the community calendar, promoted by email, and on city social media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so tonight I just wanted to share that we recently launched the Culver City Colorful Communities poster program. And I had shared the request for qualifications with the Public Arts Subcommittee in our meeting. We launched it last week, I believe, and so applications are starting to come in. So I've received 3 so far. The deadline for the submission, the qualification submission deadline, is Monday, October 6, 2025. And so this year we're going to be highlighting 5 neighborhoods. So Blair Hills, Culver West, Fox Hills, Lucerne, Higuera, and Sunkist Park. And then future cycles of the program will showcase other neighborhoods in Culver City. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know that the cultural plan RFP has gone out and the deadline is Thursday. We started getting proposals today. We have received 2 so far, which is a very encouraging sign. We've got some really major firms who've written us to discuss and ask questions, which we've responded to and answered publicly on our website. As Sam mentioned, the call for artists for the poster program, but just wanted to compliment that the neighborhoods identified in this program are going to be a complement to the areas that we identify for the rotating sculpture program, so that there's an activation, hopefully, in every community in this community. Art Walk and Roll on October 18th. We'll have a booth for Victoria Marks, our artist laureate. Victoria is working on an activation now, and as such, the newly formed Artist Laureate Subcommittee will be briefed on that soon. And I wanted to make sure that you knew the date shift. I'd mentioned before a creative economy event in mid-October. That date, due to vendor availability, has now been moved to October 29th. If you have specific individuals or groups you'd like us to reach out to, we do have an extensive invitation list from last year, but please feel free to recommend individuals or artists or groups that you think should be attending and invited to that event. That will probably serve as a launch for hopefully announcing our creative our cultural plan firm and letting them introduce themselves if we can get to that point quickly. Otherwise, it will be an opportunity at the event to just at least announce that the plan is happening and just brief everyone that comes on what the plan, we hope the plan process will include. Our October meeting will include the work plan presentation from our artist laureate. So she will be here that 3rd Tuesday. The communications subcommittee that was recently formed, given all that we have going on in October, the first subcommittee meeting for that will likely fall in November or early December based on the pacing of what we've got on the calendar right now. Culver Arts, we met with them to discuss partnership and promotions. They're currently mid-process for their MOU with the city. We've already met with them from the cultural affairs side, but we did have some clarifying conversations with them and the communications director for the city about how communications for our partnerships would look and feel. So we had a lively conversation there and have some great new logo ideas and a good plan for cross-promoting things with them. I would also like to mention that the Culver Arts has just done a recent call for murals, for mural locations during the Art Walk, and open call artist booths for artists during the Art Walk, which they support. I was going to mention the tree surrounds, which has been heavily covered. Just to note that the public survey that was at the community meeting this past Sunday will be also sent out to mailing lists, the city mailing list, and clearly directly to the commissioners. And we'll be gathering feedback through that survey. And then the other public engagement process of this will be at Art Walk and Roll. There will be posters made with the QR code that links to the survey. And I spoke to Jeff Moracle today, who is also planning his own advocacy around the tree surrounds to help share that as well. I would assuming one of you will mention this, but the jazz concerts began on Sunday night. There are 2 more left at the Kirk Douglas Theater. Tickets, they were sold out the first night, so if you have not reached out to Edgar Varela, if you're interested in going, and I'm sure he can squeeze you in, but that would be the way to get the tickets. And it's the next 2 Sundays. And that's it for my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Gupta?
where we can talk about some of the things we've done and seen? Okay, great. It's been a busy time. Kiara Morgan is showing right now at Candace Taylor. The show name is Refuge for Being, and it's really exquisite. And, I highly recommend folks, going down there to the Arts District. I did attend all of not all of them, but most of the summer concert series. They were wonderful. Music in the Chambers, congratulations, that was really, really remarkable. Emmer's concert at the Kirk Douglas Theater was also really, really quite moving, and I was pleased to do that. Also, I attended a Heidi Duckler performance at a private home, which I had never seen her work before, and I was very pleased to see that. And I'm looking forward to October 18th and the Art Walk and Roll. And just to echo, I do know that Culver Arts is looking for muralists and also for artists and for their booth sponsorship. So hopefully they will get those. And just looking forward to an exciting fall. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fleischer?
So, yeah, we had an extremely successful Music in the Chambers concert on Sunday, September 7th. There was no press release, only Instagram post, so I feel like we should be doing a press release right here in public. To me, it was the most artistically accomplished concerts we've ever had in Culver City, at least since the last Music in the Chambers 12 years ago. And it's really remarkable to do that in a city and to have that caliber here, and that we were able to offer that for free in our chambers. And so we should all be really proud of that. And I hope that based on the comments that I got, which there were a lot, and I'll actually read some of those off, but the most common one was, when is the next one? Because it was so successful, I should really mention that it was the Sakura Cello Quintet, who are internationally acclaimed. They have been together for 10 years, and it showed, all right? So when you see that level of artistry, when you hear that level of artistry, it really is magical, and you could tell by the way the audience reacted how special of an afternoon it was. So it was really, it was very moving for me, because I know several of the members of that quintet, and they're almost like children to me. So it was really tremendous. So anyway, I'd like to see this program, Music in the Chambers, grow into a distinctive chamber music series, or at least a classical music series. It doesn't have to be just chamber music, and I'll get to the survey in a moment. Years ago, I don't know if any of you were here. Hope, of course, you were here. There was a very distinctive series in Pasadena at the Ambassador Auditorium, and you knew that when you went to the Ambassador Auditorium, you were in for first-rate music making, and I see that we would have the potential to do that here in Culver City, and that is really exciting, especially with all of these world events coming up. So we did do a survey, because it was a relaunch of the program. So if there's anybody listening who hasn't filled out their survey, it's on the back of your program if you still have that program. If not, and you signed up via Eventbrite, you may also find the link through the Eventbrite. They should have sent you something a few days after the performance. So please fill it out so we can get your feedback and move forward with this series. So yeah, I just want to lastly thank my fellow commissioners for being there. All of you were there, and for helping and for supporting this program. So I was a big nag up here almost every meeting saying I want to do Music in the Chambers, and thanks to your support, it finally happened. Of course, a huge thank you to Culver Arts for supporting the artists themselves. They are just really transforming the city and really making us a beacon for the arts here in Culver City. So I'm extremely grateful, especially to Alicia and Jim, for their support of the program. And of course, staff has done a ton of work to prepare for this, so thank you to staff and to also our maintenance staff and to Dustin for the social media work, as well as, make sure I don't forget anyone, Jeff Lee, who did the lighting for us, and it was, for my classical music nerd brain, a little over the top, but people loved it. So I do just before I stop speaking here, I do want to give you a few of the comments that I heard. So a couple people told me that it was the best event they'd attended in Culver City, at least since the last Music in the Chambers. It was the classiest event in Culver City. The Chambers never looked so beautiful, and what a great venue for chamber music. So that was just from a few people that I spoke to. There was a lot of excitement after the performance. And so, again, thank you to everyone for making that dream come true for me, and I hope that we can keep it going, because it's a success that we should continue to grow on. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Mascali?
I also wanted to second all the comments. I was there, and I'm really glad that I came. I like the lighting. It might have been a little over the top, but I think this place looked really beautiful, and we were all joking about how maybe if we did the same kind of lighting during the city council meetings, everyone would kind of get along a little bit better, because it just made the environment so joyful and peaceful and relaxing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to future versions of the event, and I do think it was very classy, very sophisticated. I just wanted to make a comment, and I think it's a little bit unfair on staff to be responsible for all the aspects of the event. I think the reception after, it would be nice for it to be executed on the caliber of the music and the environment. I think we've had, refreshments and service and, kind of the fun part of the event executed at a higher level in city events in the future. So I think we should probably try to put our best foot forward in that capacity as well, and just, get professional services. It's not going to be that much more money, but it'll help represent our city in a much better way. And especially since I noticed a lot of people had come from outside of Culver City to come see that event. So it was one of our, this event will become one of our opportunities to put ourselves on the map for people who love culture and art, kind of regionally. So I think we should put our best foot forward and make sure that, the environment after is just as snazzy as the music and the look on the inside of the building. Just my thoughts on that.
So just, we have had events in cultural affairs. I remember Katie Krantz's Dear Culver City event right out here, where we had a local restaurant cater the refreshments, and that was an option, but not one that staff decided to go with. So yes, I totally agree with you, and yet my brain was on the music and on everything that was happening in here. So I think that might point to perhaps having again, some kind of structure that we need to create to make this happen, so that it isn't all on staff. And that's not for discussion right now, that's for later. But thank you for that, because it's important.
Yeah, it's part of the city. It's part of our city's branding. It's the way that we're representing ourselves. We want to make sure that it's on par with, if Beverly Hills or West Hollywood are doing a chamber music thing in their government building, I have a feeling that the situation of the reception would look very different than what we saw there. And we had a lot of important people in the building, world-class musicians that have taught generations of people. So we want to make sure that our hospitality is on par with our peers and our competitors.
Thank you for all those comments. It really was a super busy month, and I will go through all the events, but I do want to just start with Music in the Chamber since we're talking about it. It was an exquisite concert. It was superb playing. Thank you so much, Commissioner Fleischer. I love the Sakura Quintet. They were just world-class players, and what Vice Chair Mascali is referring to in part is we did have a cello great in the audience, and that was Ralph Kirschbaum, who was the teachers of all the members of the Sakura
quintet, and he's essentially considered the granddaddy of cello, so that was a great honor. I do think it is a lot of extra work for staff, and I was going to propose that maybe we could have a dedicated concert coordinator or producer to sort of take over all those responsibilities, and then also, stay local and hire a kasha or a local restaurant to cater the reception afterwards so it doesn't fall on staff. And then what I had suggested before the concert, and Sally and I discussed it also, is to have open seating rather than tickets. Because I feel like every concert, no matter if it's sold out, you're always going to have people that do no show, and then psychologically, people see sold out, they're just not going to turn up. So I think it would just be a safer way to go. We have open seating. I do want to mention various events because it was a really great, enriching past 4 weeks. First of all, on August 22nd was the Fiesta La Bayona opening, and Commissioner Muscali and myself were part of the opening ceremony since we were the entertainment committee for Fiesta La Bayona. As we know, on August 24th was the Sonia Romero unveiling at the Farragut Connector. The following evening, August 25th, this was through the Culver City Arts Foundation. There was an artist meetup at Jeff Morcole's studio, which was really interesting. It had a fantastic turnout. It was so interesting to meet all these different artists doing really interesting niche work, and it was a tremendous event. And then, of course, excuse me, of course, we had music in the chambers on September 7th. This is not a cultural affairs event, but it is worth mentioning. Every year I attend the September 11th Remembrance Ceremony at the Firehouse. I moved out of New York City 2 days before September 11th, 2001, and lived downtown. The Tree Surrounds event was, as we know, on September 14th. That evening, I attended the first jazz concert of our series this year. It was Jason Marsalis, who's one of the brothers of the legendary Marsalis family, and their dad was Ellis Marsalis, who also was a very famous jazz pianist. There are 2 more concerts coming up, September 21st and 28th at the Kirk Douglas Theater, and Edgar Varela did announce at the end of the September 14th concert last Sunday that there are still tickets available for both the 21st and the 28th. And then coming up, I just want to mention October 4th is Tito's Fiesta Mexicana fundraiser, which is a really, really fun event. Besides Tito's famous food, there are Tito's vodka cocktails and tremendous entertainment from some of the top mariachi bands in the world and dancers. And there's also going to be a mini piñata studio for the children. And this is a fundraiser for our fabulous Culver City Arts Foundation. 100% of the proceeds go to Culver City Arts Foundation. As we know, they are a very important partner to the Cultural Affairs Commission and provide support for a number of our programs. October 18th is the Culver City Art Walk and Roll in the Arts District, and then later in the month will be by invite only, the October Creative Economy Mixer at the Vende. So that's it for me. Could I get a motion, please, to adjourn? Mine's gone to sleep.
9770, I believe. I could be wrong. Oh.
We can just do it verbally if you prefer.
I'm impressed you know that.
Did someone make a motion on the screen because it didn't show up?
Yeah,
here?
both are faint now. Motion and second have both been
I
pressed.
motioned it. I don't know who seconded it.
Well, definitely. Sometimes they work. Okay, who made a motion, please?
I did.
Okay, moved by Vice Chair Muscali. And seconded by Commissioner Fleischer. Hold on. Okay. please take vote. Does anybody have a vote? Oh, okay.
Shona, is yours working?
Okay, just, you don't, do you see where to vote?
Is yours working?
She doesn't have it. Okay. Okay, Commissioner Gupta, how do you vote? Yes. Okay. And then the other votes all came through on the screen, and the motion passes with 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop. Just to finalize the meeting.